Hi there, and welcome to this edition of the Alaska Report. We are privileged today to be able to move to part two of our Alaska Report, where I introduce to the Alaskan viewers some very special Alaskans, a group of interns that I have with me here in Washington, D.C. for the month of July. I think most of the viewers that have watched this show know that normally I sit down, I interview Alaskans about great issues, but when the interns come to town, it's an opportunity to kind of turn the tables. So this is their chance to ask me questions about some of their observations, some just issues that they want to talk to me about, and they get the benefit of doing it on camera. So again, if you missed our last show, you know that there's a unique opportunity for young men and women who have just graduated from Alaska high schools to come and intern with me in my office for a month in the summer. A little bit hot, I know, but we all get used to that or have to deal with that. But it gives them an opportunity to get a closer look at the inner workings here in the United States Senate, our legislative process, but also to know and understand a little bit more about their nation's capital. But they do everything around the office in terms of helping out with researching, writing, attending meetings, going to hearings, traveling with me throughout my day as my shadows. But I'm just so pleased to be able to introduce them to you because they are a very remarkable group of young people. Most will be heading out to college this fall, but the chance to be with them for a month and to get infused with their energy is a great opportunity for me and my staff. So I'm pleased to welcome them today, and rather than me keep talking, again, this is your opportunity to ask me what's on your mind in front of the cameras so that Alaskans gain a little bit of insight with not only your interests and who you are, but what you want to know from me. So we're going to start right down here with you, Maggie. If you would give your name, give us your hometown or your high school, and then let's go with the questions. Welcome.
All right. Hi, I'm Maggie Graham from Homer. My question for you, Senator, is what was your thought process in deciding to come out in support of marriage equality, and why did you choose the timing that you did?
Well, it's a great question, and it's something that Alaskans have been discussing because I think it was recognized that this is an issue that can be very personal to many. It is an issue that I feel strongly about from the perspective of equality, and it was a position that I took very deliberately and very thoughtfully, based on passage of time, recognition that we have seen a change in mindset and in viewpoints when it comes to the issue of marriage equality. I had an opportunity last summer to meet with a beautiful family. A member of the Alaska National Guard had adopted not one child from foster care, but 4 children, 4 siblings, and a remarkable family story, but was made even more remarkable when I learned that the woman who had adopted the children had been in a long-term relationship with her partner. They were not married. To recognize that the woman who had also been helping to raise these children would not have the ability to continue with that were anything to have happened to the mother who had adopted. It caused me to really question how we view not only marriage but families. And I think it's okay to question events and issues that perhaps we have thought we didn't question. And I have been very concerned that in today's society, that people are treated equally, that you're not judged based on who you love, but how you choose to show respect and love for one another. So you ask about the timing. We recognize that the Supreme Court had the issue of Defense of Marriage Act that was before it, that was coming up this summer, and I wanted to make sure that Alaskans knew where my position had evolved to, and so I thought it was important to speak out this year, and so that's kind of the backstory. But it's a good question on an issue that I think many in Alaska care very deeply and passionately about. Thanks for being here, Maggie. Kelsey.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Cunningham, and I'm from Hope. My question is, when did you first know you wanted to enter into politics? And was there something specific you can look back on now that helped you decide to enter into politics?
You know, I don't think that there was one specific aha moment where I said, I know what I'm going to do. I had been involved as a young person. I'm sure, like many of you, I was involved in student government when I was in high school. I was involved in student government when I went on to law school. When I was in private practice, I was involved in local and community events, and I like to joke that as the president of my son's PTA, that's where I really learned about local politics and knowing that it can really make a difference there. But it really was not until I was tasked to help find a candidate for a vacant seat that was coming open in my district for the state legislature that I kind of did an inward look to myself and said, this is something that I have the skill sets for, I have the passion for, I want to try to help people in my neighborhood and in my community. And it's always tough. It's easy to say, you should be the one to run, but when you have to look inside yourself and say, well, maybe I do have something to offer my neighbors and my community. And so again, not a single issue, but probably a more cumulative series of events that caused me to be where I am today. Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel Galanis, and I'm from Unalaska. Mm-hmm. And Senator, my question for you is, in regard to healthcare in Alaska, how can we continue to expand care to our many rural and remote areas?
Well, as you know, it is a very difficult issue out in the Aleutian chain, out in Unalaska. To have a doctor it's difficult. Typically in our smaller, more remote communities, we don't have doctors. We have mid-levels, we have physician's assistants. I know for a fact that if you are a woman out in Unalaska and are expecting to deliver a child, you don't deliver in Unalaska. You must come to town. Most people on the outside don't understand that, but the recognition that you have to leave Unalaska about 6 weeks ahead of your due date and fly to Anchorage so that you can be in a hospital in the event of an emergency. Most people don't understand that our remoteness and small size just, it forces healthcare in a different direction. So how we deal with that in our rural communities has been a big challenge for us. One of the things that I've been working on is to make sure that we have mid-level practitioners that can be there. You might not have an anesthesiologist, but hopefully you've got somebody there that can stabilize a patient in the event that they need to be medevac to Anchorage. We need to do more when it comes to our community health centers. I think that this is a very viable option for us in the state of Alaska. But as good as our community health centers might be, it's making sure that you have the staff that are there. You can have a building, but that doesn't deliver you health care. We don't have a medical school in the state of Alaska. We're probably quite a ways from having our own. We do have the WWAMI program that does deliver some students from Alaska through their process and hopefully back here. But it is an ongoing challenge for us. So we need to make sure that we provide for incentives for those who would practice in medically underserved areas. That's another thing that I've been working on. Making sure that our reimbursements for our providers are such that we get sufficient number of providers into our state, which is a difficult reality for us. So there's a host of different factors. I guess I would end my comments by saying it continues to be a challenge for us to figure out how we provide for good health care for all Alaskans, regardless of whether you're living in Anchorage or Fairbanks or Unalaska or in a small village up north. It's a great issue to work on, and I'd take help from any one of you if you decide you want to go on to medical school. We need your help back here.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Rachel.
Hello, my name is Maddie Moore and I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. And my question is regarding the NSA surveillance program. And I was wondering if you agree with the president's statement that we can't have 100% security and 100% privacy, and what your thoughts are on the program.
Well, it is a very, very touchy situation in the sense that we all want to know that we have a level of security in our country. I want that. I think you all want that. But we also have an expectation of privacy and personal civil liberties that we would expect our own government is not encroaching on. So there is this fine line out there. And I have taken the position very, very early on. When I first came here to the United States Senate, the Patriot Act had already been enacted, but there were aspects of it that were up for review. And I took the position that we must not exchange our personal liberties for the security that we promise. There is a way to provide for a level of national security, but let's not encroach on our personal liberties. And again, we worked very hard very early on to put in place some safeguards. And we saw the warning signs back then. This was back in 2003. Fast forward now to where we are 10 years later, and we are seeing some of the exact same things present themselves in terms of a level of surveillance that we were just thinking that it could happen, but we'll be guarding against it to make sure that it doesn't happen. But to know that each and every one of you that has a cell phone, and I'm sure you all do, that your phone records are subject to search and surveillance because you have a cell phone. Again, I want to make sure that we are secure, but I want to make also certain that there is a level of privacy that as Americans we appreciate and understand. As Alaskans, it is even reinforced in our own state's constitution. So much of what we do here in Washington is try to achieve the balance. Based on what we're learning now with NSA surveillance, I think they've tipped the balance. So I want to make sure that we can recalibrate that and ensure that lawful Americans are basically not being snooped on.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Kenzie Birkin, and I'm from Palmer. And my question is on the minds of a lot of Alaskans back home. What was your reasoning behind voting for the immigration reform bill?
Immigration reform took up a good part of the summer. Certainly the last group of interns, it was almost their entire session was focusing on what was going on within the United States Senate on immigration reform. I did support the immigration reform bill, and the reasons are several. I believe that we have a broken immigration system, and if it's broken, it needs to be fixed. To just kind of sit back and say the problem's too big, or you can't round up 11 million people and send them back to whatever country they originated from, it's not within the realm of possible. What is within the realm of possible? Let's fix our system so that we secure our borders. Let's address the system so that employers know that there are consequences if they turn their heads to the law and hire those who are here illegally. Let's ensure that we have a respectful but tough process so that those who are here, these some 11 million, have a path to citizenship. And again, the path to citizenship that we're talking about here is not something where you just snap your fingers, the president signs a bill into law, and anybody who came here illegally is now a U.S. citizen. The path that has been put in place with the Senate bill is one which requires all of it requires the border security pieces to be put in place and effectively certified by the Secretary. It requires those who are here to pay fines, back taxes, not have any record with the law. They have to have good moral character. And this process, again, it's about a 13-year process is what we're talking about. So making sure that we have secure borders, making sure that we have a fair process to deal with those who are here illegally, and making sure that we have a tracking system for those who come here legally by way of visa but then overstay. We've got in this bill a proposal that I think has real teeth, but it has some heart, and I think it's well thought out. We'll see what the House does with it, but I think the Senate, in passage of its version, was a very strong first step to deal with a very broken immigration system. Thanks, Kenzie. Up to you, Thaddeus.
Hi, I'm Thaddeus Isaacs, and I'm from Clog. And my question for you is, what career would you have chosen if you had not become involved in politics?
Finally, I get an easy one. I love this question because it's just so automatic for me. I grew up knowing that I wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher. My grandma was a teacher, and it's what I wanted to do. In fact, until I was a sophomore in college, I was going to be a teacher. And my story is I was taking an economics class, and the professor said, "You're not doing well in this class. I advise that you drop the class." And I was so offended that this professor had so little confidence in me and my ability to step it up that not only did I stay in his class, I switched from education to economics as my major. I don't know if it was intentional that he did this, but then I was kind of out of the education field, and as you know, I'm here in the United States Senate now, but I also have a background in the law. I really feel that so much of my job as a United States Senator is to educate people. Educate people about Alaska every single day. That's what I end up doing. And so in a way, I do feel like I'm doing what I set out to do when I was a kid in elementary school, which is to teach. It's just not in a conventional classroom. Thanks, Thaddeus. It's nice to have you here.
My name is Connor Hula, and I'm from Eagle River, and my question for you, Senator, is, in Congress, conversations constantly change from issue to issue. What is the most pressing policy issue in the Senate at this time?
Well, at this time, This afternoon, we hopefully will have an opportunity to vote on a student loan proposal that will deal with an increase in the interest rate on student loans. Now, I would venture to say that for a good number of you here today, this is an issue of great concern. You're going to be going off to college. With the price of college nowadays, we all know that our families are strapped when you save as much as you can. I know that I have for our two boys, but even with good planning, college is just very expensive. So we have the opportunity for student loans. But if the opportunity is one where the interest rates add to the cost of your loan to the point where young people look at this and say it's simply not affordable, then we're not doing right by our young people. So we have been engaged in a debate here on what the correct path forward is. We had a vote. We've had several votes now on just doing a temporary extension of the current interest rates. Well, I want to keep interest rates low along with the rest, and I'm working to do just that. But I want to make sure that what we're doing is not just hopscotching from year to year so that there's no certainty here. I think we deserve a permanent fix to this. I think you all deserve, your families deserve, a permanent fix to this. And so this afternoon, we'll have an opportunity to vote on just that. We will be tying the interest rate to the Treasury note. It will be capped, so there will be some level of certainty, which is incredibly important. We will work to keep not only the rates low for those who have federally subsidized loans, but for all student loans. And this is one of the big differences between the proposal that has failed and that I didn't support. I want to make sure that it's a permanent fix for all student loans, not a temporary kind of kick the can down the road for a year for only some of the student loan recipients. I think that this is an extraordinarily important issue for our country. Education is key to our economic success, key to your economic success, and college and higher education should not be just for those who have the ability to just write that check. It needs to be made available to all Americans. We need to have a student loan system that is good and fair for all, and I'm pretty encouraged with what we've got in front of us today. So that's the issue of the day.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Connor.
Hi, my name is Emmy Van Wyn. I'm from Kenny Lake. Senator, Alaska has recently adopted new education standards in hopes of improving our education system. Do you believe these new standards will achieve their intended purpose?
The state has been working, I think, aggressively. As we know, we've got standards at the federal level through the Department of Education back here in Washington, D.C. I am one who believes pretty strongly that education is best delivered when it is done at the state and at the local level. Let's put these education decisions along with a level of accountability with our states. I think that the state has been working well to put in place standards that speak to the level of accountability, but also that move our young people to that place where they are college and career ready. And that's what these standards are designed to do. I think that those who have been working with our Commissioner of Education to help develop these standards, whether it's been the organizations, the coalitions, the administrators, but working within our state administration, I think that they are putting us on the right track. I want to make sure that Alaska's students are on par. Forget that. I don't want you to be on par. I want you to be above students around the rest of the country. So we know that our levels of standards are important, and that we want to make sure that they are competitive as well, with good accountability built in.
Thank you.
Good education questions back there. Mitchell.
Hi, Cinder. My name is Mitchell Forbes. I'm from Bethel. And my question for you is, how has your law background prepared you or helped prepare you to address Alaska's many issues in the U.S. Senate?
A couple things on that one. First of all, law school, not the law degree, but law school really does have an advantage in that I think it trains you to think critically, looking at an issue from all sides. And believe you me, in this job, you need to be looking at the issue from all sides because I represent such a broad constituency. Whether you're from Bethel or from Anchorage or from Unalaska, whether you are white, African American, Native, it's such a broad constituency. And so you have to be able to look at all sides of the issue. I think you've noticed that I have meetings with all kinds of different people and organizations from Alaska. Some I agree with, some I don't agree with. But I am their representative. I need to be listening to their perspectives. So I think that law school really helped me to think critically about problems and solutions, and I think that that's helpful. But also to have an understanding of the law, to know and have studied the Constitution that guides us in our decisions back here. That, I think, is very important. Is being a lawyer or having gone to law school a criteria for being in elected office? Absolutely not. But has it helped me in the way I think and just in a basic understanding of the law, how it functions, and really the Constitution that is the foundation of so much. So it was helpful to me.
Thank you.
Thanks. You're doing wrap-up, John.
Yeah. Hi, my name is John Gutch. I'm from Anchorage. We constantly hear about federal government overreach, especially in Alaska where things are different from the rest of the country. Can you expand on some of these cases and what can be done to resolve them?
Well, I could expand on them, but I think we'd have to take another hour to talk about them because it is so much a part of my job here. And I think you have seen, as you've sat in with me on meetings and gone to hearings, so much of what we're doing is educating others on how Alaska is different and how this overarching reach of the federal government with a one-size-fits-all mentality and regulations maybe doesn't fit in a state as big and remote and small population as the state of Alaska. When our lands, 60% plus, are held by the federal government, knowing that we've got that federal landlord that's basically telling us, look, you can't even put a nail in the wall without permission here. We feel like our opportunities are limited in accessing our resources, in managing our lands and our people. And so much of what we do is pushing back in areas that you wouldn't think we would even have to fight with our government on. And we've got so many different issues that we can speak to, whether it's how the people in the Fairbanks region are trying to deal with air emissions regulations that literally are threatening to shut their community down, or whether it's a small mom-and-pop veterinarian operation down in Soldotna that's being told that their small little pet crematorium is subject to EPA regulations because they've been violating the Clean Air Act. Every day, it's another battle. It's a challenge for us, but I think it is a reminder as to how important it is to have aggressive representation in Washington, D.C. to protect our very unique and very special state. Well, they were great questions. We could have easily taken another hour to do it, but we don't have it. We're out of time. But I want to thank those of you who have joined us here today, not only to listen to good questions from young Alaskans, but I really am pleased and proud of the young people that are coming out of our schools all across the state, those that are stepping up and saying that they're interested in understanding more about how their government works, how they can be great contributors. So to all of you who've joined me here during this very, very hot month of July in Washington, D.C., thank you for giving up your Great Alaska Summer to be here with us. It means a lot. And for those of you who have listened throughout this full half hour, thank you. I hope that you've been impressed with them. I know that they'll be back in your town again, being great ambassadors for Alaska. I want to thank you for joining us on this installment of the Alaska Report, and we'll see you next time.